I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Give me just 1 second, please.
Ralph, is Johnny on the spot here? While we wait for our broadcast to come up?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was my bad, sorry.
Oh, okay.
It's quiet, we're broadcasting.
Yeah. Just trying to get us caught up.
All right.
I like it, Ralph.
All right, Robert Carnahan.
Here.
John Foreman.
Present.
Julie Rivera. Here. Ralph Miller.
Present.
Randy Niemeyer.
Present.
Colleen Sheehan is absent. Richard Sharp is absent. I am present. Rick Everly.
Present.
David Austin.
Present.
Okay, can we have an approval of the minutes from August the 17th?
I'd like to approve the minutes.
We have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Robert Carnahan.
Who made the motion?
Julie did, I seconded it.
All right, Julie, Randy. Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Julie Rivera.
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes. Okay. Number 2 is our East Side Sanitation Sewer and Manhole Rehabilitation. Who's going to talk about that? Neil?
Yeah, I can. And this will be this item and the next item
Okay.
for the East Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor and the manhole rehabilitation. That follows the work that we did starting about a year and a half ago and the report that was delivered in November of 2020 that identified areas in the East Side Interceptor, which is generally from the...
Dave, can you move that mic towards Neil, or if you could stand up there to make sure that people in the broadcast can hear?
Thank you. This follows the work as part of the East Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor analysis that we did starting about a year and a half ago and culminating in the report of November of 2020, recommendation of repairs that need to be made to the East Side Interceptor, which is the discharge of Lift Station 2, which is just slightly north of 133rd on Morse, and the Gravity Interceptor 2 Lift Station 3, which covers the entirety of the east side of town. What we did is we analyzed the videotapes that Public Works provided to us, came up with recommendations for repairs, rehabilitations of not only the sanitary sewer, but of the manholes in that run. And what you have is we solicited requests for proposals from 3 contractors. We had 2 respondents. And contract 1 being the lining project, we have a recommendation to award, as shown on the tabulation on the next page of that report, to Insituforum LLC in the amount of $534,927.70. Part of that, and I discussed this with the staff level, we're going to recommend that we remove item 13, which is the pressure grouting in the amount of $74,000. In conversations with the contractor that it's not a product they specialize in, we'd be well advised to remove that and solicit that particular work for those runs of 24 and 18-inch sanitary sewers, selective pressure groutings. I believe there's 5 total from another contractor. So what we're looking for tonight is a recommendation for award in an amount not to exceed the $534,927.70.
So you're saying the 534 has that line 1374,000 deducted?
It's actually included in there, but a recommendation in the amount not to exceed. And I've talked with that contractor Insituforum, and they have absolutely no problem removing that from what their submitted bid was.
So you want to say not to exceed so that we can then just go right after the proper people to do the grouting?
Absolutely correct.
Okay.
So essentially that number of 534,927 and change would be $74,000 less, and I think you'll get a better bang for the buck in terms of not only removing that $74,000, but either having a lower amount with finding a specialized grouting contractor or being able to increase the amount of work you do for that same dollar amount.
So this is a lot of money, okay? So when you put together the project specs for, was it a bidding process or was it just seeking contractors?
This was a request for proposals, and this is a specialized, product and method that, we had discussed at, previous, utility board meetings. Our initial estimate was in the $600,000 range.
Did this have to follow any state specifications as it relates to bidding?
We did review this with staff.
Okay. I don't know, I guess it looks to me like we're changing the project spec tonight when we were requesting proposals based on this number 13 being in there. Is that correct?
It is correct that the entirety of the project, being the whole, we're removing a small portion of that in the amount of about 12%. There's areas that are highly applicable to the sanitary sewer, lining project that work for what In Situ Form does, and they subcontracted out for this other work. And upon our analysis of what we've done recently in Highland and other communities in the past several years, that number was significantly out of what we've seen in terms of a cost per installation, and that's why we recommend that getting removed and modified.
I'm not an expert on all of this stuff, but I gotta admit that I'm a little bit taken aback by the lack of transparency of the process.
We had discussed this at a utility board meeting and in conversations with Dave, as the lining of these sewers is incredibly specialized. There's very few contractors that do that, and the RFP process was discussed and recommended for.
But my point is,
I'm sorry, Randy.
the RFP included number 13, which we're not gonna take out. It could have, that number, that one there could have affected a proposal from somebody else. I don't know, I mean, it's just, you know, we held our fire chief accountable when we did the ambulance bids, that there were some things that weren't right when it related to the specs, when it came to being fair to all of the bidders.
How many
A
other,
lot of money to spend, $500,000.
it's a lot of money, how many other folks got the bid package?
3 in total, only 2 responded.
2 responded?
Yes. So of the 3 specialized contractors, 1 absolutely did not respond to that as well.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that, you know, this may be the price, okay? All I'm saying is that the process seems a little off to me. I get that I remember discussing this stuff, and that the RFP process was decided as, I guess, satisfactory for it, but I just have a problem changing the game the night of awarding the contract. It seems unfair to our ratepayers and unfair to the possible other proposals.
The recommendation to remove it is in the benefit of the ratepayers.
I get it, but why wasn't that removed if we didn't need it before we got the RFPs?
Oh, we absolutely do need it.
Then why are we removing it?
Because they don't do it.
Because they're
And so
subcontracting
he's
this work
gonna get
out.
another company to do that, the way I understand them.
So if we keep it in for the additional 74,000, as opposed to deducting it, they will find somebody to do it and get it done.
They will get it done, and
So you're
you'll-
saying we can save a nickel if we pull it out?
probably half the price you'll be able to save on that particular item.
So if we leave it in, are they going, is whoever is awarded the contract going to be in charge of subcontracting that work then?
Yes, absolutely correct.
And to what oversight? Who's watching this?
They're ultimately responsible as the general contractor.
Who are they
and
responsible to?
The utility board.
Okay?
So that's the good thing about keeping it in, is then they're accountable, right?
Well, I guess in a sense, John, but how many times has anybody ever been held accountable here? When it comes to contractors, I think the only people we
It's
ever,
rough.
we had 2 contractors that we held their feet to the fire. That was
Structure
LGS
Point.
Plumbing
And
and Structure Point. Those are only 2 in my time here on the council that we've ever had in front of us at meetings and grilled them,
Right.
right? So, I don't know who these contractors are, but...
And In Situ Foam is one of the well-known companies that does this all over the state.
Okay.
They absolutely are.
Yeah, American Structure Point is well-known too. And they do jobs all over the state as well.
I agree on that we got taken by them.
The point is, I'm just questioning the procedure right now. That's where I'm
Oh,
hung.
I have a question, Neil. How much higher was the next responsible bidder?
We only received 2 bids.
Right.
One for, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You're correct.
RFQ.
Yeah, for the RFP,
proposal.
we received one for the sewer,
Right.
and we received the other one for the, manhole rehabilitation.
Okay, so this is the only company that bid on the manhole
So,
rehabilitation?
Correct, the other one we submitted did not respond to the request for proposals.
Can I ask, when we start constructing the West Side Sewer Interceptor, are we going to be getting proposals from contractors, or are we going to go through a bidding process?
That will be a bidding process, because that's general sanitary sewer utility excavation construction. This is not specialized rehabilitation, for the West Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor, or any water main extension, or any general, contractor project of that nature.
Mr. Chairman, Ralph, I have a question for Rick. Rick, I know we're the policymakers, it's our call up here. However, based on your knowledge of being in cities and towns for many, many years, what's your opinion of this subject matter?
Well, first of all, I agree with what was said about in situ form, but I've used them in the past, and they've got a strong reputation in their field. But I like Neil's suggestion that he feels we're going to get a much better price on that item 13 if we have a subcontractor give us a price for it, saving as much as 50% of that price, because in situ form simply doesn't do that type of work.
That's correct.
Yeah, so I think it makes perfect sense to pull that out and expect to have somewhere $35,000 less to pay than what you're seeing in front of you at $534,000.
But then do we make the not to exceed the 456, 927 instead of the 534, 927?
Well, Neil's recommendation is leave it at the not to exceed 534, but expect that the contract's gonna be reduced to right around 500,000 with, by getting a subcontractor involved.
So in my industry, finger pointing can occur. Sometimes people do a turnkey in order to point their finger at one person. And say, we don't care who made the tooling, we don't care who designed the conveyors, it's not making rate, it's not getting your throughput. So I just wonder, Neil, are we trying to be penny wise and dollar foolish on a $500,000 project by not making them sub out that portion?
You could absolutely make that argument, and the reason item 13 was in there is because, unlike the rest of them that are fully lined, these runs only had several very small, errors or failures in the sewer.
Okay.
And that's why they were pressure grouted, as opposed to expending, $40,000, $50,000 to line an entire section
Right.
that didn't need it.
Okay.
And that was the goal
So is
behind
this
that.
traditionally what's called slip lining?
Yeah, very, very similar, items, 2 through 11, that is slip line, it's usually an inverted, heat, steam cured, polypropylene or polyethylene product.
Do
is
you
what's
know,
what's being used.
because the East Side Interceptor is legendary for having breaches large enough to drive a car in, right? I mean, these are urban legends that we've all heard.
Yeah.
Has that analysis been done? Do we know where the breaches are? Do we know where the I&I is? And are we fixing the problem with this?
On the interceptor, absolutely. On the areas that are tributary to the interceptor, Tim could speak to that later, but that's being worked on, looking up from the main interceptor, that tributary.
And you know this
to lift
about
station 3.
and you know this about the interceptor how?
Because we were provided those videos by Public Works, and they were incredibly comprehensive, and we were able to analyze those from manhole to manhole, and in each manhole, which is part of Project Contract 2, which is the rehabilitation of the structures that convey from one sewer pipe to the next.
And I've attended Indiana Association of Cities and Towns when it was called that, and I watched demonstrations on this, and also I don't know if it's, gone up with, more life expectancy, but they, guarantee them for like 50 years.
In terms of the guarantee period, I don't know what that is, but, one of the first projects I was involved in Nice was 95, 96, and that sewer is still active. It's, inspected on a annual basis by the town of Highland, and it's in excellent shape. And it uses the exact same methodology for rehabilitation.
Do we have any estimates of how this may benefit our east side capacity?
Yes, we do. Ultimately, this is approximately 3,000 linear feet of rehabilitation here, and the gallons per minute, I don't have that with me, but we have analyzed that in our office, not only in terms of the main sanitary sewer runs for this interceptor, but also for the manholes and the leaks that we have in there. Don't want to use the term that we use out in the field, but the small leaks, the large leaks, those are being rehabilitated and recommended as part of contract 2 additionally.
Okay, so can we have those estimated numbers when you get the opportunity to send them?
Absolutely.
I think it's important for us to understand the impact that a $500,000 investment is going to have on our system, not just from a maintenance standpoint, but from a growth standpoint.
Yeah, anything you can take out in terms of I&I gives you de facto capacity within your collection and conveyance system.
What's the timeline, Neil?
It's a one-year contract, and I talked with their representative Monday this week. I would imagine if we can provide them a contract and a notice of award, and they have their bonds and their insurance in order, they could be operating within 60 days.
And the cost of doing it with this in situ foam is a lot cheaper than tearing up and replacing pipes.
Yeah, and that's where the ultimate value is. You look at item 17 in terms of the bypass pumping, $12,850. Were you to replace 3,000 feet of sanitary sewer and have bypassing, that number could be well in excess of the $534,000 because you're digging up every pipe. You're bypassing from one manhole to the next, and you're doing a traditional excavation method as opposed to a trenchless method.
So these sewers are essentially 50 years old. Has this ever been done?
On these sewers? No.
So no preventive maintenance of this sort has ever taken place?
Not on this system.
Okay.
And there are lines within this area of the east side
I'm sure it's a mess.
that were not recommended to have any rehabilitation done because they're in fine shape. We have no penetrations. We have no I&I of significance to provide a value to do that rehabilitation method that would give any value to the town, the ratepayers, the utility board, and the town in general.
I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, nor do I. Thank you for the answers, Rick.
Can we have a motion to repair the sewer line? Is the first thing under this.
What was the proposal?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to approve the September 17th letter for the Eastside Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Manhole Rehabilitation Proposals Award not to exceed the $534,927.70 with the anticipation of us having line item 13 for $74,000 submitted by us independently.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer?
No.
Ralph Miller?
Yes. Now, can we have the motion for the manhole rehabilitation?
I'll make a motion to approve the manhole rehabilitation.
In the amount of $19,582.75.
Is that in situ form also?
No, that is Spectra Tech.
Spectra Tech is where?
They're out of Indy, but they also have several locations throughout the state and throughout the region.
Gotcha.
And again, they're a contractor that has not only done work with the town in the past that, the utility department has been quite pleased with, but we've worked with over the past several decades, and we've had, incredible results in reduction of INI within each structure.
Very good. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Everly, Mr. Kubiak, you guys are thumbs up on this as well?
Yeah, we actually had them do a couple manholes that were pretty bad for us, and they are about 4 or 5 years, and they're beautiful.
Good, thank you.
Redone, and did a nice job. The color was a little crazy, because they're like a pinkish color, but other than that, they're nice.
Mr. Miller, did we have a second?
No.
I would second Julie's motion.
Can we have a roll call?
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman,
Yes.
Julie Rivera,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer,
Nope.
Ralph Miller.
Yes. Now can we have a discussion on the potential adjustment to the Lakedale Regional Waste District capital billing cost? Mr. President, I believe Sue Hayes is on via Zoom to support this or participate in this discussion, but she and I have talked about this several times. We're not proposing an increase in the administrative fee of 50 cents per month on a monthly basis that is charged to the Lakedale residents, and nor are we proposing a change to the $3 per month that's applied to past Cedar Lake capital costs. Those two numbers are multiplied by their number of users, which is currently 524 users. We are recommending that we bring the other two charges, that for operation and maintenance and capital costs, up to the current levels. We have, for whatever reason, those numbers have been frozen at 2015 levels. So we charge Lakedale based on their percentage of the flows that go through the flume, I believe is the location, Neil, where we meter that. And that's roughly 4%, their flows versus ours. And we charge them 4% times, in one case, $57,007 and some odd cents, and in the other, I believe it's the capital cost, it's multiplied by a factor of 47,000 and change. We need to bring those up to the current rates, it's not gonna make a tremendous amount of difference, but it still should be by today's rates as opposed to the 2015 rates. That number, that flow rate, can change on a monthly basis. And just as an example, for the month of June of 21, that was for May 21 consumption, that flow rate was 3.7%. Their flow rate was 3.7% of the total flow rate out of the flume. But that can vary month to month. And Sue and I are recommending that we go with those more accurate numbers. There's also a true-up that we are billed every year by Lowell, and we need to be charging Lakedale for that true-up number as well. For example, last year's true-up number for 2020 was $77,000 and change. We need to apply their average monthly flow rate to that $77,000 and then bill them accordingly, which at just using 4% as sort of a baseline, that would be roughly $3,000 that they would have paid to true up. And Jen knows a little more about that than I do, but Lowell bills us, these days they bill us $60,000 per month. And then at the end of the, I'm sorry?
Yeah, 60,000 is the estimated charge that we.
Right, per month, and then at the end of the year, there's the true-up that occurs, and we need to make sure that we're billing Lakedale accordingly. And as Randy mentioned in the last meeting, we want to make sure that we are transparent about this with the Lakedale folks, and I would suggest that Sue and I meet with
at least Nicole and whomever else she advised from the Lake Dale group to inform them of what you folks decide we should do with the rates. We're just looking to be fair and equal, and if Sue has any comments, she can chime in.
I was going to say that on the way that the agreement states is the O&M costs that we bill out to Lake Dale on a monthly basis should be based on the O&M operating bill that we get from Lowell on a monthly basis. We have had it frozen since 2015 at $47,000. That amount currently being billed to us is $60,000. Understand, on the O&M portion of it, there is a minimum charge that we charge them. So if, for instance, that their flow times the $60,000 is less than $2,700, we bill the $2,700 as the minimum charge to them. We also get an invoice on the capital portion, and that currently we are billing, that is the $57,007 that Rick mentioned. Currently, we pay Lowell on a monthly basis $43,040. So we need to update that one to be specific. And then, of course, I do agree with Rick, is that on our true-up, we need to, both of those types of costs are based on Lake Dale's flow, and we need to charge them correctly, but understand that minimum comes into play.
Right, and I think Sue did a sample calculation, took 1 month and did a sample calculation, and if I remember right, Sue, it resulted in a difference of about $250. So that's why I say it's not significant, because one of these numbers that we would base the charge on will increase while the other one will decrease. And as Sue mentioned, we have the minimum monthly charge of $2,700 in any event for the operation and maintenance costs. So if they go to if we're being billed by Lowell $60,000 a month, and Lake Dale's percentage of that is 4%, that's only $2,400, and we're billing them $2,700 anyway. I think they'd have to get to about $66,000, $67,000 a month billed to us before we would, their percentage at 4% would exceed $2,700 a month. So we're being made whole, but we want to make sure that we're basing these charges against today's accurate numbers as opposed to 6 years ago, the frozen numbers that we've been using.
That's good.
Makes sense.
Can I ask, in this discussion piece, were the folks from Lake Dale contacted that we would be discussing this tonight?
No, I wanted to have this discussion with you folks first and make sure you're okay with the direction we're recommending, because I'm not asking you to take the action tonight, Randy.
Can you please, when we do have an action item prepared and after you've met with them, can you please invite them to the meeting?
Certainly.
Where it'll be considered, so any questions that they might have can be asked?
I would hope that we could set this up for next month as an action item.
Okay.
And yes, between then and now, Sue and I will endeavor to meet with those folks and bring them up to speed on this.
Thank you.
All right.
So with that, we can move on to number 4.
Yes, sir.
So, the Lakeview Business Park Water Recapture Agreement is also a discussion item.
We discussed this last month, as you might recall. We asked that Neil has reviewed the numbers and feels comfortable with the numbers that the engineer has proposed for us. The question was whether the benefited area was properly defined. I know Neil's had some conversation with Jack Hulls about that. Neil, can you bring us up to speed, and has he provided you an accurate benefited area?
Yeah, that area seems reasonable. The construction costs are in line with what we have seen in terms of public works projects for water main extensions. They have other items on there that I will obviously let Dave comment on, but what the proposal for the costs are reasonable in today's current environment.
I have a few questions on this. Like, number one, just explain to me where it says 560 units or 2 units per acre, what does that mean?
That's what they're estimating in terms of the served area versus the development that's expected to be as part of that upon full build-out or redevelopment.
2 lots per acre is what they're anticipating. Yeah.
So the 560 units, would that be if it was a subdivision?
Yeah, because I believe their acreage that they included as part of the benefited area was in excess of 260 or 280 acres from that.
I think what he's explaining is the area that's kind of outside their own development, that's a benefited area that would benefit from this water utility development.
Okay,
That's
Could be
absolutely right.
560 units,
All right.
or 2 per.
Yeah, it could be as much as that at a 2 unit per acre average.
and there's a 1% administration cost that we'll keep out of the recapture agreement.
That we're entitled to keep statutorily, right, yes.
And then section 8, in C, Dave, could you explain about suing and lawsuit?
Town is immune from liability to the collection process and will not be liable for fees and costs.
All right, the last thing is, it's, in 10, it talks about a 15-year, where they have 15 years and then the recapture agreement's done?
That's a state law, I think.
It's in the statute for the reimbursement.
The statute that governs this is in flex every year in the legislature and Jim Pressel from LaPorte is constantly tweaking these laws as it relates to utility extensions, recapture agreements.
Tweaking them to help municipalities or hurt?
No, tweaking them in favor of the developers.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, he's never had a law that helps the municipalities, it's always the developers.
Huh.
And my concern there is if the economy crashes again and they're not able to recapture it in 15 years, that's kind of bad for them.
Well, here's
That's happened before.
For anybody.
the good part of this though, Bob, is that the infrastructure will be built. It's why we charge system development charges anyways. And at the end of the day, once the recapture agreement is done, whether it expires with time or it expires due to them being made whole, we own the utility. So it doesn't matter one way or the other. It just, this allows us to have the opportunity to share the risk on the front end with the developer, and it benefits them to get started on their development, sell lots, build buildings, and whatever else they're doing. So it is a good situation to do something like this.
Well, that's just some questions.
Yeah,
I
even
had
if the
from
worst case scenario happens and they can't recapture all of it, think about how much we would have spent on the utility in that time compared to what we'll actually spend, and it's still a victory for us.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. President, this is listed here as a discussion item, but as you can see, there is a motion and voting box that's set for, if you feel comfortable with the agreement, you could act on it this evening. If you want more time, you could defer it to next month.
Well, due to the fact that they've broken ground, Rick, and they're moving forward with moving dirt on their industrial park, wouldn't it be advantageous for them to have us make our decision and
They don't.
for this agreement that
They
you've
don't-
drafted, or are we still in support?
Dave, have you done a dive, though, on some of the updates to the legislation as it relates to these sorts of agreements? Because it changes every year.
No, I have not. In fact, my recollection of the last month's meeting was that we were to convene to assess, identify, and propose a form of a policy, not approve a contract. I've had these discussions also with Attorney Bauer, the developer's legal counsel, and they're aware of that we're working on formulation of a policy or.
Yeah, and the idea was is to not have it project by project, but more
Or the
set of objectives.
So
And that's what we
internally,
talked about.
it can be part of the dialogue between
Yeah.
staff and the developer for presentation purposes. And the other thing about this law, at least today, it's completely discretionary in the jurisdictional body, whether you approve or disapprove or negotiate.
So did you not write this
I did not.
water line development agreement?
I did not.
Rick, who wrote it?
Attorney Bauer.
Yeah, Bauer.
Oh, okay. So you have not,
Yeah, this is essentially his proposal to
Right,
us.
that's the
Okay, that's
proposal.
correct.
That's exactly what it was.
So, to me, I think what we need to do is,
if you like this, I'd like to make it kind of our standard.
well, I think there's parts of it that are good, John, but, it would be helpful if we did a review of the current statute.
Okay,
Like I say, it changes every year.
okay.
And make sure that we can take a policy like this and apply it to other projects that may be residential in nature, that may be in areas that are completely underserved in water utility, i.e. all wells, right? So a recapture agreement would be a little more complex in something like that. So I think it would be worthwhile for us to just give it a little time to dive in and vet the details to make sure that we can apply it to a broad spectrum of projects.
With the intent, though, that we keep the ball rolling. Let's not let this thing stall out.
No, it's not gonna stall out, and they know that we're working on a policy objective, and they're gonna move forward with their project regardless.
And they're aware you're looking at this intently. It's not an idle,
And we're not gonna leave them hanging.
Right, that's my point.
No.
As a board, I feel as though we've given annexation, we've given
Yeah.
approval to break ground, we gotta keep this moving.
But that shows our good
Timely
faith there
fashion.
with the annexation
Absolutely.
and the development agreement and all that stuff that we have considered and been favorable on. This is just a matter of, okay, this is Attorney Bauer's proposal to us.
Right.
We need to have our team,
representing the developer.
right, that represents the developer. We need to have our team go through this and say, okay, these are things we can use on many projects. This is useful, this isn't useful, right? And then come to us with our own policy objective proposal for us to consider.
If we've got it up here as a discussion item, which we had a discussion, do we want to let Dave take a look at it for next month and have it on the agenda again?
Yeah, we don't need to make a move on it.
Yeah.
That's what Rick had said when we opened up.
Right. So I can place this on next month's agenda for
October 19th.
as an action item.
And I'd like it, to make sure that Dave reviews it. Okay, written reports from the clerk treasurer.
Board members, last Friday you received the cash and expenditure report. If you have any questions really at this time, I have nothing new for you.
If we can move on to Nice.
Thank you. West Side Interceptor, Project 1's completed, as we mentioned last month, permitted through IDEM, which needs to be updated. CSX permit is in effect, awaiting acquisition. Project 2, design is on schedule. Item 3, East Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor updates, we addressed that earlier. Item 4, the SSES. We have additional videos that we've requested from Public Works that were missing from the most recent batch they've sent us. They are working on that, and part of that is a West Side capacity analysis that we've begun to review with not only the OmniSite data, but the flight data that you have as part of your new lift stations for 11, the one that was installed for Rose Garden, and some of the newer ones specifically up to the north, that is being analyzed so that at the October meeting we can provide you that we have capacity on the west side for certain developments as discussed recently. Item 5, the Utopia subdivision water main replacement, that's on task, on schedule, looking to bid consistent with our submittal to the Indiana Finance Authority State Revolving Fund Loan Program. I'll take any questions you may have on those items.
Chairman, for the record, that SSES was something that, and some of those analysis was something that we had a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Asked to to be done, and I am wholly dissatisfied with our lack of progress to this point. And I don't ever want to see that happen again, where the direction of this board is ignored by anyone on staff or consultants. It will not be tolerated.
You're correct. The
There will be
initial
consequences for it.
videotaping that was done was a contract corporation. They provided those videos, they were unsatisfactory. Subsequent to that, your staff began doing that work of the analysis of the entire West Side Interceptor, which is essentially from Lift Station 1 all the way up to US 41 along Lowerman, north to 137th and out to US 41, north to there to where the discharge of Lift Station 8 is. So it is an incredibly large area, and they've been doing a fine job on it.
But this wasn't just 2 years ago of missed opportunities. We started this West Side sewer process and overall sewer improvement process with the annexation project in 2014. Imagine if we would have been successful in our annexation, how foolish we would look right now due to inactivity and inaction, and on many levels. So I wanted to make sure that my disappointment in the lack of progress was noted on the record.
And that we authorize contractors, if we can't handle it in-house, to use contractors on the outside.
I think every time one has been brought to us with a reasonable proposal, we have said yes to it. We've always been supportive of moving the process forward to provide the citizens of our community reliable utilities.
To keep us moving on, Director of Operations. Tim, any report?
Yeah, I feel that we've pretty much been working on what you guys have asked for. I know we didn't do the sump pump inspections. We started to work on that, and it kind of fell off the radar with everything else that's been going on. But again, we've pretty much doubled our residents in the west side in a 3 or 4 year period, and I feel that we've been working pretty hard on getting these things taken care of as best that we can, so I'm
Just to add to that, if you need help of contractors or things like that, when you've brought them to us, we've always said yes.
And absolutely, like Neil said, we got the contractor to videotape the line, and it was pretty much, we got what we got, and it didn't really get us moving forward anywhere. That's why we got our own camera truck, and we got the quality of the information that helped us do the right thing to move forward, because what we were provided by the other contractors was worthless in our minds, and we were going to be throwing dollars at stuff that wasn't proper. So we definitely, I feel that these proposals that you're getting now are just money that's going to be spent in the right places, and I think we've done the proper work to make sure of that. It took a little while, but we did make sure that we're giving you the proper information. Other than that, the lighthouse wells, the new lighthouse wells, we've been having nothing but trouble with for the last month. The lighthouse has been had no water probably 15 times now in the last month. We've been working pretty hard to try to get that straightened out. Thursday, we're going to be getting new drives put into that pump house to get water for the interim time until the rehabilitation of the pump house goes, but trying to string it along just isn't working anymore. We put in some new pressure tanks. We made some adjustments. We got it going. We got somebody sitting there. This is the first night now that they're open for business with what we've done to make repairs. So we got somebody in there making sure that it's functioning properly and working good. But it's been quite exciting, and we're making some good progress. The sump pump evaluations, we got Malia, our part-time girl, to start. She's formulating a list with Jen of all of our sewer people. We're getting a game plan. By next month, we're going to have you a number of how many houses have been checked. We got a good game plan. We got it moving in the right direction. So hopefully that will be moving forward.
Is it easier to check new homes and new subdivisions?
New homes are checked.
Oh, okay.
We don't need to check those.
Okay.
Those are all done.
Okay.
All the new stuff is all the new stuff is done, so all we need to do, we have some good areas from the reports from the lift stations, we have some good consolidated areas, targets to start on, and that's gonna be our focus, but we just wanna get a game plan so we make sure we get every house checked and every right area.
So let's say you find a house and I've got my sump pump going into the storm drain.
It
You
should be
guys
a
find
storm
it?
drain,
Or
sanitary.
sanitary rather. You guys find it, you tell me, hey, disconnect it, I disconnect it. What's the penalty if
Well,
we reconnect?
I'm currently working on a proposal for you guys of the penalties. I
Okay.
mean, my initial thought is you get 30 days to get it disconnected and taken care of. If we come back, Neil said there's something in our ordinance that shows you could pay 75 or 90. There was something in there if you're putting stormwater into the sanitary, so if people don't comply by then, they'll be then charged that extra $95 a month for sewer. Or if they don't let us inspect their house, we're gonna assume that their sump pumps are in the sewer. I mean, we're coming up with a list of those conditions for you guys to look at, you know, imposing as far as time-wise, fine, penalty,
But we're making it clear to folks that if
We
they
need to
have them
check.
presently, there's no penalty, there's no fine, just
Exactly.
please disconnect it and don't reconnect it.
Absolutely, that's
Okay.
the intent for now is that if we do find it, you have the 30 days to get it corrected, if that's gonna be good with you guys.
I think we need a quick, easy exhibit also to hand people of
Yeah.
how the sump pump rules work, so that I don't then pipe it to my neighbor's yard and we just create another circle of work for all of you.
I
You know,
think that's
just
a
make
good
it
point,
crystal
John,
clear.
because it can be confusing to a person saying, well, disconnect that sump pump from the sanitary line. Well, where do I go with it?
Right.
Right, where do I dispatch this? You know, so I think that's important to educate our people as we're doing this, so they can do it the right way.
Because if 4 homes all disconnect, someone's backyard is gonna have water.
That's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. So we should have a little simple
And that's gonna be
AutoCAD
our-
drawing at top view.
Yeah.
If this is your home, this is your option, option A, B, and C.
Right.
And you cannot be any nearer, I think, 10 feet according to our ordinance from a property
And
line.
our ultimate dream is to, when we find these trouble areas, then we're gonna have to focus get Don involved with some stormwater,
Yeah.
you know, some way to deal with the stormwater, and that's gonna come with, I mean, we're picking the scab on the Band-Aid here now, and it's
Right.
gonna turn into much more things, but ultimately it's gonna get better.
But if we put something in place, when we talk to them and tell them, we show them a picture of how not to, maybe,
Right.
as opposed to how to.
And we're working on
I think
that
we
now, is
save more frustration.
Kind of the stipulations in the plan, and, you know, and then we're definitely gonna have water issues to address along with this, so.
Yeah, because there's many citizens, I suspect, that don't even know.
Right, you're
Right.
absolutely right.
And so I think that needs to be taken into consideration,
Right.
that we need to kind of shepherd people through the process.
Right.
And we're gonna put it on our thing, and we're gonna put it in the sewer bill, and we definitely wanna let people know that us coming to check is not a, you know, what I mean, we're gonna give you 30 days to get the item corrected, and we wanna make sure that people know that by us letting us in there, they're not gonna get a, you know, $1,000 fine or something crazy. I mean, we're here to try to make it better for everybody, so.
Right, we're not there, as Randy said earlier, we're not there to punish, we're just there to find what the issue is and eliminate the
Sure.
illegal connections, and I think Randy's exactly right. I've gotta believe that not, better than 90% of the illegal connections, people don't even know they're illegally connected.
Absolutely, so maybe in the sewer bill, have Don do a little picture of right and wrong, the circle with a red line through the wrong, just so people know how
I
not to
think
do it.
as whoever goes door to door to hand them something
Yeah,
like that would be
exactly.
effective, so that you know that each person was copied on some of the procedural things that they need to consider at correcting the issue.
It's gonna be.
Everybody gets the sewer bill, so we're gonna utilize that to start getting the information out. We got a good person to call people and set up appointments and talk to people and explain the situation, so.
Luckily, my house doesn't
Good.
have a sump pump, so,
Nor does mine.
yeah, I'm a lucky guy.
And then I have
And
one other.
PR is huge.
I have one other thing, we have our sewer, service crane truck is getting to the point of needing to be replaced, so we're gonna be looking into the best options for that. We took it in to get the crane recertified, and last year, he said you got another year, and this year, it's at the end of the rope, but it's like $65,000 to put a new bed and crane on
Is
the
it
truck.
rusty?
and
What's the problem?
Rusted, yeah, just rusted, bushings, it's just too much stuff to fix.
Is
We bought this
is
truck.
there an
for-
inventory of used trucks like that? Because it seems like inventory of anything that has to do with work trucks is like nothing, there's nothing out there.
And we have located a couple that were like, there's a place in Ohio that actually they build new service trucks and they rent them to big corporations and stuff, and we're looking into some options. So we're definitely, we looked at the, NJPA deal for like.
You can't afford to have people up in a bucket and have a faulty piece of equipment. I mean, Chief Wilkening
Oh, yeah,
has taught us that much about ladders and things
And
like that.
our bucket truck, we get certified every year. I mean, we took and got new hoses and it's all redone for certifications yearly, but the crane truck now it's done. So without putting, I think we paid like $37,000 for that truck 4 or 5 years ago to get us by until we were ready to upgrade to something else. So it's done its job, but it's like a 2004 or something, so to put that much money into a new body, it's just.
Put $65,000 into a $37,000 truck.
Doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. So we're gonna weigh our options. I just wanted to let you know, we're gonna come up with our best plan we can, and then we'll keep you in the loop. Oh, yeah, thank you.
We move on to the town attorney, the water rates.
Two reports for you. One on the water rate item, your petition before the IURC. Petition's on file, the evidence is being compiled for the pre-filed filings that have to be made. I do have a briefing tomorrow with the consultant city attorneys in Indianapolis, et cetera, Sue, Neil, I think. Yeah, Neil's on that. So I'll have more for you next month. Second thing, received from Nice and Neil yesterday the updated easements needed for the West Side Sewer Phase 2. Everything is done with Phase 1. Acquiring Phase 2 now begins with this information, so we're ready to move
So
forward.
with Phase 1 acquired though, we could get prepared to start that project, correct?
Absolutely.
All right, good, let's do that.
Yeah, I will update the IDEM permit, which
Okay.
expired in May of this year, and we will move forward with a bidding schedule at your next meeting, if that's acceptable.
Good. That'd be fantastic.
Got it.
Keep the ball rolling.
Uniform offers will be prepared for issuance.
Heard about the JMOB report. Good.
Still trying to set that meeting up. We were not able to, they suggested September 16th, which didn't work for us. So I've now sent 2 emails to Lowell's town manager asking if October 13th would work for them. How does it work for, I have to make sure it works for our folks, but that's a Wednesday that's free on the calendar. You're having a special meeting here on the 12th, but that's the night of the storm board meeting, so we don't have room to work it in that night. So we're looking at October 13th at 6 p.m. if that happens to work. For us, I've not heard back from Lowell contingent yet, though.
Any public comment? Any public comment? Any public comment? No public comment, we're adjourned.
Sorry.
Town Council public meeting for September 21, 2021 is called to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Robert Carnahan,
Here.
John Foreman,
Present.
Julie Rivera. Here. Ralph Miller.
Present.
Colleen Sheehan is absent. Richard Sharp is absent. Randy Neemeyer.
Present.
I am present. Rick Everly.
Present.
David Austin.
Present.
Before we start the official agenda, I'm going to allow the floor for a special presentation we have here tonight. Jerry Wilkening had called me and asked for some time for these fine people to make a presentation. Can you introduce yourself to all of us?
Yeah, I'm Emily Lynn. This is Shauna Ashleman. So I'm a teacher from Jane Ball. Shauna is a paraprofessional in my room. We teach in the emotional disability room. And one of the things that we were working on in our room at the beginning of the month was remembering and also paying tribute for September 11th and the anniversary. So as a teacher, I believe it is my job not only to teach academics, but also to instill important values in my kids in my room. One of the values that was brought up and talked about with the anniversary of 9/11 was appreciation. So during September 10th, we did a lot of reading, watching some videos, and also just having a conversation about exactly what events took place and what that meant for not only the people in New York, but also the people around our country and the different occupations affected by that. Thinking close to home, we talked about the first responders, police officers, and firefighters, and all that they do to keep us safe in our towns. As a thank you and gesture of appreciation from my kids, myself, and my staff, we want to present you with a very special art project that we worked on. The kids made some paintings, specifically for the chief of police and the fire chief. The hero definition is to represent our admiration for you and all that you do. The red, white, and blue is to represent the appreciation we have for the sacrifices you've made, not only for our town, but for our country in your roles. The hearts are to represent the care that you take in protecting us. We hope that this can bring a smile to your face and show a small piece of our appreciation that we have for you. So, the kids worked really hard on it.
Wow.
So there's one for each of your buildings. So they wanted to make sure that you guys got it.
Maybe do it up front.
Yeah,
We have it. Why don't you guys present it up front? We'll go ahead and move
That works.
ourselves out of the way here.
Carl, you are nuts.
Well, very good.
They worked really hard.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, of course.
Let me point out to you, we have an American flag that was donated to us, and it's got a list of everybody that perished on 9/11.
Yeah, we just, in our room, we just think it's very important that the kids understand that, and in an age-appropriate way that they understand what it means and the impact that it did have, even though they weren't necessarily born then. So they just really have a new appreciation and understanding for all the work that you guys and first responders do in our community. So,
Thank you, tell them, thank you very much.
of course.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you, ladies.
We're glad to have you at Jane Ball Elementary School,
thanks.
ladies. Thank you.
Yeah, Emily, I'm very pleased to see that you're teaching the kids about the importance of events in our time and the people that sacrificed during those events. I mean,
Yes, that's how I was raised, that's how I was taught, and that's how I continue to roll the ball in my room.
glad you do it. Thank you.
Good job, Emily.
Great
Very
job.
good. Awesome.
Yeah, the only thing, just with our room at
We'll go to public comment on agenda items. Second call for public comment on agenda items. Third call, public comment on
And
agenda items.
any of you that were going to talk about parks or stuff, it's on the agenda, so you can talk about it now.
All right, Mr. Mike,
Mr. Cox,
how are you this evening, sir?
well, I'm pleased to see you here. I'm glad that you made it.
Well, I have to thank you to offer to you for making a call on my behalf when I was ill.
Well,
Appreciate it.
I think that's what we're supposed to do, is try to help each other.
Yes, sir, we are.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we gotta make the
The
effort.
more I realize it, but thank you. I have no official capacity in the Woods of Stevens Creek, other than I was asked to chair an ad hoc committee for the community improvement, which basically deals with our entrance sign and our detention pond, because that's the only things we really own, okay? But the discussion did come up about the park. And it seems as though, we understand that it is the town's park, that they can do with it as they wish. But there is a number of people that have voiced that they would really, really, really appreciate more of a pavilion there with the ability to sit at picnic tables and so on, more than the playground, because there's just not really a lot of children. Now,
But the guy sitting next to you, Brian, said he wants to play on a playground. I'm just kidding around with you, Brian.
Yeah, they fantasize about the different playgrounds. So it's not a, you know, they say they're not opposed to having something there, but their preference would be to have something more in the way of a facility that would, you know, where we can have picnics and association meetings and blah, 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 that kind of thing.
Your request makes a lot of sense,
Well, you
a
know,
whole bunch of sense.
I know, Rick, God bless him, was, explained to me that their thoughts were that you didn't have enough parking there for a shelter and whatnot and so on, but it's not that it was ever platted as an over 55 community, that's not the point.
It's kind of turned
The point is,
into
it's just kind of turned that way. And, you know, with the pavilion there, if we want to provide something for the kids, which we can do, we can always throw, you know, I mean, I've got them in my garage or whatever, we've got the, you know, the cornhole games, the things like badminton games and so on, so we just throw that up for the kids.
And not every park has to have a slide and monkey bars.
Hey, listen, monkey bars would be fun.
But for your neighborhood in particular, the character of it,
Yes.
and I understand what Rick is saying about parking, but I think most of you in the neighborhood, if you were gonna go to a gazebo, would probably be parked in your own driveways and walk there.
Well, that's exactly correct.
It wouldn't necessarily be a park that would be focused on a community gathering point as much as it is a neighborhood gathering point.
You are correct.
Because you guys are kind of tucked back there anyways,
Yeah.
hidden away from all the hustle and bustle.
Is the park right on the main street?
No.
No, it's on the southeast corner of the whole.
Southeast corner.
Oh, okay, back in the,
But
okay.
I do want to remind the council that,
Off of Sherman?
yes,
Okay, I'm looking at it.
there is a park directly east of ours also, that was planted with, I think, what is it, deer cap? Or something, whatever it was. And, you know, there was thought there of maybe, hey, having the shelter on our side and having the playground on that side, when it becomes built, because those are single-family homes and they don't have kids. So.
Are they adjacent to one another? That's an interesting idea, I like that, I like the way he's thinking.
Pretty sensible.
Because right now, people are sneaking through some unsafe wooded area to get from one subdivision to another on a bicycle. So if the topography is such that it could be some sort of path and a pavilion and a swing set.
When you were a kid, you would have never cut any trails through the
No.
woods, would you?
Never. But that, I mean, looking at it from a top view, it makes a lot of sense. Tim's got his hand up.
Yeah, Wilbur, can I turn the floor over to Mr. Kubiac real quick?
Absolutely.
Okay,
When
thank
we
you.
were talking about this park equipment, the intention was that 3 to 5 year old little play set for grandchildren and a pavilion was discussed also for that park, so people could take their grandkids there, sit at the park. That was the intent for step 2, was that, for that area also. And Colleen, when we had the meeting, I mean, she would like to have a pavilion in all these parks. I mean, that was kind of what we discussed, and also with the pavilions being done at Bartlett Wahlberg, we're gonna try to do some type of a prefab prototype deal that would be available in different sizes and kind of set a standard for, you know, maybe it's a 8 by 10 or maybe it's a 12 by 22, but basically we're looking for something that will be sizable to the areas, but still have that same look, so it'll be symmetrical throughout the park, so that's kind of where but that was, the pavilion was absolutely, the intent was the 3 to 5 year old little tot lot with the pavilion, so that they could take their grandkids.
Did you let them stay with the kids, or?
Right, exactly, I mean, that was kind of, for that age, we thought that would be cool, you know, if they're watching the grandkids or whatever, had a place to go.
For those of you that are residents there, does that sound like a reasonable approach to have a pavilion and like a little tot lot?
Yeah, I mean, we are predominantly 55 and older, but not exclusively.
Sure.
So, you know, I mean, I have grandkids and they're 3 and 5.
I mean, the thought process, I mean, out here over here, we have a lot of mothers and grandparents bringing the kids to this little, that's the most thing I see used besides Haywood in town, is the little, people bringing the little kids to play dates and whatever, but we thought that was a great area for that type of an activity. And that's kind of, we were just trying to start with something somewhere.
Exactly.
And that group of the younger kids seems like the place where the people aren't in school and the moms get together and let them play out here. I mean, I come down here quite often. I drive around a lot, but I notice quite often right here at the, you know, right here, that they bring a group and, you know, there's 6 or 8 little kids out there running around.
But you know, even with you guys talking about limited parking, we have residents that live across 141st, and they walk over with strollers.
Oh, yeah.
With little kids. I mean.
Yeah, there's plenty, the roads are big enough. And
your neighborhood's small, there's not a lot of homes.
Right.
There's not
I mean,
a lot of traffic.
Right.
So.
How many homes are in there? How many?
60.
So,
Right.
so what is our timeline on some of these improvements, Tim?
So you're saying don't.
Well, I believe Rick's got that on
Don't do anything.
Don't
agenda, right?
The hope is that we could get approval to order the equipment, Randy, because if we order it before the end of the month, we can lock in the prices that I've shown you. But they won't be constructed till next spring anyway, because the lead time is 12 to 16 weeks on this equipment. Now, this is, what we're talking about here is, what I have given you is the playground equipment, and what the Park and Rec Subcommittee chose to be uniform was option number 2 with playground equipment and option number 2 swings.
I'll grab that thing real quick.
Yeah, it's in my office, you know where it's at, Tim. And I believe Margaret included that in your packets, perhaps, the colored renderings of the option 2, both,
Now, are these, okay, so let's say we approve ordering the equipment tonight. Does that mean that a certain piece has to be installed at the Woods of Cedar Creek, or can we adjust that to be a little smaller footprint of the actual equipment and more of a footprint of a gazebo or a pavilion?
well, there's room to do both, I believe, at their park, certainly. And again, Randy, the idea was Tim's got the board there for the audience's edification, but you folks, you council people, should have this in your packet.
Yeah, we've got it in our
Yeah, we got in
packet.
our packet, go ahead and turn that around, Dave, for them.
But the idea, Randy, was to try to make it uniform in all the parks so that we didn't do a smaller, excuse me, a smaller play set in one park and a larger in another. We didn't want anybody to feel slighted. That was the reason for selecting option 2, playground equipment, and option 2, swing. But the parks that were identified, Randy, were Kiwanis, Lynn's Way, Monastery North, and Woods of Cedar Creek. Those were recommended by Dale Gergel, who is our primary gentleman who works on all of our parks. But they can go in other parks if that decision is made. But that's, what you see in front of you is a recommendation for that equipment in those 4 parks. Tim mentioned something that I might have missed because I had to leave that committee meeting to go into another one. At the time I left that meeting, there was not a discussion about putting a pavilion in Woods of Cedar Creek, and that's what I said to Wilbur. So if that's different, then I apologize to Wilbur. Maybe that came up after I left the
Well,
meeting.
that did come up.
Well, I like the idea, I just texted everybody that talked to you, put this in maybe the subdivision to the east of the Woods of Cedar Creek, and then in addition to put a small pavilion.
Absolutely.
It's good idea.
I just want to say one thing, not to be rude or anything, but every time we try to do anything, we always keep going to do 100 more things and we never do anything. That's why we're ordering these 4.
We like it.
Like, we want to keep on going, and everybody sparks, like, we asked for how we started, we were like all over the place, but we need to do, we want to get this going and then start saying, hey, we need this here.
We're not trying to delay it by doing the shelter, we just think.
But we can't pick, we had to start with 4 just so we could get it done, because we get blown out of proportion, and then we sit here and we spin our wheels.
And I am very thankful that we are one of the 4.
Yeah, so and that was Dale. Dale actually is our parks guy, and he got this guy, and he asked me, and he's like, can we pick like 4 places and just get that ball rolling?
But by getting the purchase done, we still have the opportunity to look at some of their requests for their own neighborhood.
Right.
And like what John was saying, if you have a neighborhood right next to it in Deer Path, the swings and stuff would be more suited, and then a pavilion over in Woods of Cedar Creek, it's a good balance.
Right.
But then at least we get the equipment purchased and we can put it somewhere else.
And hopefully our pavilion deal, once we get this prototype of the pavilion, it's gonna be awesome, because then we can just pick and,
You can cut and paste it.
add and
Yeah.
bam.
Yeah, that's great.
It is so nice.
Yeah.
It'll be really cool to be able to start doing it,
It's
and
amazing.
the same stuff.
Tim and I met with Nick Giorgio, who's doing the Bartlett Wahlberg work, and he has shown us the prototype, and it's just a gorgeous pavilion.
And this place also is gonna be able to color coordinate all this equipment to our colors.
Brian?
Okay, would it be possible to maybe put in like a shuffleboard court or some horseshoe pits or something for cornhole and that nature?
I think what is trying to be done, and I don't sit on that committee, I'm not part of the discussions, but is trying to come up with some kind of uniformity, because the more à la carte that you do, the less you actually get done, because then you'll have one park that you'll invest $200,000 in, and one that you invest $20,000 in, because people have different requests. So it's coming up with some baseline uniformity, and then building off of that.
And right now, that's kind of the intent, is if we get, right now, the other parks are gonna be, why are these 4 parks getting this and we're not getting anything? So we're trying to, like you said, you gotta start out, and then we're gonna try to tailor the stuff to everybody's, areas the best we can.
Wilbur?
That was our thought, so.
In response to Brian's question, I don't think the town would mind if us guys got together and put a horseshoe pit in there somewhere and shot horseshoes on Sunday, would you?
I don't think so.
It's your park. I need some sand so they don't run away on you.
Well, there's things that people like to do, and we're able to do it on our own rather
Sure.
than depending on the town to,
Yeah.
because most of the time, if you put horseshoe pits in, who's gonna take care of horseshoes?
Right.
You know, so it'd be just up to us to do it anyway.
I'd put a
And the more complex, the
Yeah.
more complex you make things for government, the worse it is.
I know it, but.
Yeah. I'm just being honest.
If it's a town park with indirect your
Yeah.
The simpler, the better.
ahead.
I'm sorry, Candy?
That's okay. Behind that park is a pretty big ravine. I mean, is there some fencing that's
Yes,
gonna
we're
go
planning
in
on
there?
putting fencing there.
Okay, and that's the other thing that needs to be looked at when you're talking about kids going from one side to the other.
Right.
I haven't been back there in.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering about the topography.
Well, yeah.
It may not be feasible, I don't know,
It might
I'm
not
just,
be feasible.
I looked at the top view, I have no idea.
Drop off.
Yeah, that's where your zip line is.
And hopefully, hopefully none of Brian's horseshoes go down that ravine. Wilbur?
I thought about that too, because there's a ravine there.
I don't know where it is.
But maybe down the road with a little help from the town, they can clear the ravine, and put a walk over it, something though, or even a big culvert for that
I'm not
matter,
sure either.
where we can run between the two lots. But that would be, I mean,
we are
that part is
planning on
not
fence.
built yet, and we can do that later.
Okay. So I think we have everything noted here, and we have a pretty good game plan to get equipment purchased. And then we've got to just do maybe a little tweaking as far as location of equipment, location of pavilions.
And thank you for listening. I do have one other thing. There is a number of people in the subdivision, not all of them, it's not a, we go around and ask everybody. But, there was a gentleman that moved into that subdivision.
Item 2 was the one.
And he absolutely positively wanted to be next to that park. So that's where he chose to build. And he was hoping in his
Can we get
lifetime
him to listen
it would
to
be
what
developed so his
Wilbur's saying?
grandkids could enjoy it, because he lived for his grandkids and kids. His name is Dave Brunius. He was an Army veteran, married his high school sweetheart. She passed at a very early age from cancer. He raised 4 kids on his own, while working and so on. And unfortunately, he passed away this year. And there's some of us that, because there's never been any identity to the park at all, we thought maybe that you might consider naming it the Dave Brunius Memorial Park. Now, I've heard from other people that there are other people in the subdivision who passed away and so on. And I understand that, but nobody's really offered anything to give the park an identity, so, if we're gonna be named anything, or have an identity to it, he would be a very, I mean, he was a great guy to have around the subdivision. Awesome.
Well, we do appreciate that recommendation, Wilbur. I don't think we're at that phase of naming anything at this point. It's
That's
just a
fine.
matter of getting our plan in place, getting the wheels turning,
Yep.
and that way we can start getting things done.
No,
So,
good idea, I like it.
well, I appreciate,
Don't you?
yes, I appreciate all the input here from the residents that showed up. It is useful and helpful, so thank you. It's good to see you always, Wilbur. I'm glad you're out and about.
It's nice to be out and about a little bit, I tell you.
It's good to be seen, right?
Well, sometimes I guess.
And thanks for your service to our town and to our country. Appreciate it.
That was truly my honor, so thank you.
Thank you, Wilbur.
Thanks, Wilbur. There you go. You have public comment on the agenda. Go on. Your turn.
Okay.
You know the routine. You've done this before.
I don't know. Mary Jo Dixon, 8711 West 132nd Place. On the park projects, you mentioned that, they all can't be cookie cutter because we need some ADA facilities. We have one swing in town for children with disabilities. We have no playground equipment that's accessible for children with disabilities. And I think that really needs to be looked at.
All 4 of these are.
All 4 of those are ADA?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, the basketball court, you had mentioned at the last meeting about how you were sold for basketball. This court out here needs to be resurfaced for the last 10 years, and the one in Meyer Manor does. So if you could take a look at that, it won't cost for playground equipment cost, but in order to even play now, because it's coming so uneven, you can't even enjoy it. And our basketball court in the Manor always had tons of kids playing, but if you bounce the ball, it swings over here, out the street, so whether you resurface.
That was part of the adventure press growing up in Brunswick, when we played basketball in courts that were slanted. You shoot from one side, you're shooting at a 9-foot basket, the other side was 11 feet.
Hold on, I'm talking about.
I thought it was
No.
you guys in Brunswick trying to take on the Meyer Manor kids.
No, we would be.
Well, it's all good. It's all between you guys.
Okay, I can't talk on my behalf, but on the other charges, they're all tall.
I love it.
They would take it.
I love it.
But, it's not, I'm talking about the surface itself.
Right.
It's all cracked up,
Yeah.
it needs to be addressed. It's a liability, I mean, if somebody falls and trips, so I would just ask that you look at that one, all right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jo.
Thank you, Mary Jo.
Any other public comment on agenda items? Thank you. All the comments were greatly appreciated. We have our consent agenda, the minutes of the August 17, 2021 special joint meeting, claims, all town funds, $340,830.12, wastewater operating, $53,230.55, water utility, $66,630.32, stormwater, $79,862.25, and payroll for 9/16/2021 of $220,271.45, manual journal entries of August 1 through 31, 2021, donations, police donation shillings, $7,599, DARE donation, American Legion, $100, Elmwood Funeral Chapel, $250, Gerald Smith Parking Lot Collections, $1,100. Is there a motion to accept and waive the reading of the minutes and accept the consent agenda as listed?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Rivera, second by Mr. Miller. Questions or discussion?
Yes. On the claims, we have a Bozak Ford Escape Hybrid that's listed at $25,766. Aren't we going to, isn't that one that's going to be paid through a grant?
Yeah.
So we're paying up front and then we'll be reimbursed?
Yes, it's a reimbursable grant. Chief Fisher has discussed it before. The total grant is actually $50,000, and there will be 2 vehicles. This is just the first vehicle. We were able to, get it quicker than the second vehicle. Once all the paperwork is completed, then we'll be submitting and we'll get the reimbursement.
Okay. That's a question I have.
Any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julia Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Randy Neemeyer?
Yes, carries 5-0. Ordinances and resolutions. Item 1 is Cedar Lake Ministries ordinance number 1398, rezone ordinance from R1 and PUD to PUD. Mr. Austin, review of legals.
There are no legals for this.
Okay,
The
so,
legals happen at the plan commission.
so this is not a public hearing, this is simply an ordinance.
It is.
Okay, I will mark this off. We have the first reading of ordinance 1398.
Single reading only,
Okay.
the zoning change.
Adoptive reading of 1398. Mr. Foreman, would you read by its title, please?
I'd be happy to. The Town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, ordinance number 1398, an ordinance reclassifying certain lands in the Town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana for zoning purposes and amending ordinance number 496 being an ordinance replacing zoning ordinance number 278 entitled Cedar Lake, Indiana zoning ordinance, passed and adopted by the Board of Trustees of the Town of Cedar Lake, Indiana, and all amendments passed subsequent thereto, repealing zoning ordinance number 278, all amendments thereto, and all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, establishing a new comprehensive zoning regulations for the Town of Cedar Lake, and providing for the administration, enforcement, and amendment thereof in accordance with the provisions of the Indiana state statutes. Passed by the Town Council of the Town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, 13th day of December, 1989, and all amendments passed subsequent thereto.
Thank you. Mr. Austin?
The matter before you is the zone change that was applied for by Cedar Lake Ministries for its entire property. The matter is a replat, if you will, of a portion of the property into Lot 2 with a overlay of the planned unit development, which provides a site plan related to the existing structures and community, which had already been the subject of a PUD years ago, and is now being updated so that the entire community, as legally described, is contained within a single zoning change approval process. This is, as you know, a unique piece of property. It's a 100-year-plus old community in our town. It had pre-existing development activities on it, in the nature of homes and improvements and community amenities. There's a significant desire, it appears, for future continued use and expansion of those activities within the parameters of town law and zoning and planning authority. So this matter is before you for a change from the current zoning, which is the form of PUD and R1, to the current 2021 planned unit development zoning district. The town's ordinance, specifically ordinance 496 as amended, and in Title 11, the planned unit development portion of same, requires a development agreement. The development agreement is the commitment by the developer or property owner for the use of the property consistent with what the ordinance will permit and the site plan presents. That development agreement was the subject of a significant amount of dialogue over a period of 4+ months that resulted in a really carefully understood and mutually agreed upon guidance and oversight to what will happen on the property. Your plan commission received the application, conducted public hearing on August 18th and September 15th, continued to September 15th, and the development agreement I just referenced was approved by the Planning Commission for being appended to the ordinance. The matter before you also includes addressing some storm drainage issues, and there is a separate storm drainage agreement whereby the community will commit to improvements that were recommended and requested by the town's engineering consultants at Christopher, and that are, again, mutually beneficial, long-standing, and necessary for use of the property by the Cedar Lake Ministries community as well as by properties outside the ministry by the improvements made in the storm drainage activities. So you have three things to consider tonight that will collapse into one thing. The ordinance is before you to change to a current PUD based upon the site plan and all the engineering and all the requirements. And it will be conditioned upon your approval of the development agreement that I just referenced and also the stormwater agreement that I just referenced. Ultimately, if you act favorably, the two agreements will be appended to the ordinance. The ordinance will be completed with the exhibits. The blanks you can see from the document you have still need to have exhibit labeling. I would recommend if a favorable consideration is to occur that you act, but you withhold signatures pending staff and consultants checking off on the exhibit numbers and whatever that last edit detail is for accuracy's sake. Nothing more, nothing less. Substance is done.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 1398?
I would like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 1398 to rezone ordinance from R1 and PUD to PUD with the contingencies as discussed by our attorney, that which is contingent on the development and the stormwater amendments.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion?
I would like to add with with the proper signatures.
Concur.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call?
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Randy Neemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 5-0, it's adopted. Item B, planned unit development PUD contract amendment was described by Dave. It's a very detailed document that was vetted over many work sessions.
Many.
And, so, I mean, this has been a lot of work to get here. Hopefully some people who are a part of it are watching tonight. Great job by everyone in going through all the details because there was a lot of them. Is there a motion, to approve the PUD contract amendment?
I would again like to make a motion to approve the planned unit development PUD contract amendment.
Motion by Mr. Foreman, is there a second?
Second?
Second by Mr. Carnahan, questions or discussion? Roll call?
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Randy Neemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Item C is the drainage and stormwater management agreement. Again, another, thing to be appended to the ordinance. This was also very well vetted.
Engineers are all over.
Yes, everybody, like I say, the amount of work that went into this was as much as I've seen on any particular zone change, so, but it was a very old piece of property that needed that type of consideration.
Making up for history, Randy,
Yeah.
that's all.
Well, and that storm drainage has some mutual consideration between the parties,
Sure.
so it will benefit some people who are outside of the ministries as well as the folks inside. Is there a motion by the council to approve the drainage and stormwater management agreement?
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement.
Motion by Ms. Rivera, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Miller, questions or discussion? Roll call?
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Randy Neemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 5-0.
Mr. President,
I'm listening to hear the cheers from the ministry. I think I hear them.
no, that's from Colorado, that'd be Mr. Peters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Nate Peterson.
yeah, Nate did a great job.
Sir?
Yes, I'm with Cedar Lake Ministries.
Okay.
Oh.
So we just would like to really thank the board very much. Nate could not make it, emergency came up, he was hoping to be here tonight. Last minute he says, hey, nobody's in town, and I'm on the board. He says, can you get here? So, Mr. Austin.
What's your name, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry, John Perzee.
John.
I'm the treasurer on the board.
Thank you.
So,
Your address?
13701 Lowerman Street, number 77. We're all the way at the very north end.
Very good.
Well, thanks for your patience with this. It was one of those things, and I could feel the frustration in watching the plan commission meetings. Everybody was frustrated, but when we look back 10 years from now, I think people will be glad it was done this way,
Oh, yes.
because then there'll be a set of objectives and expectations that everybody can operate off of. There'll be no question marks, there'll be no interpretations. It's, hey, this is what it is. We can all move forward and live happily ever after, hopefully.
Right, but we really want to show our appreciation and thanks to the board. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you coming.
Okay.
Did we vote on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Then that's a done deal.
Chairman, when you presented this for signature to the council, that would,
We will forego signatures until completion of what you talked about.
we need to get together and get the exhibits right.
Okay. Item 2 is Resolution 1289, a confirmatory transfer resolution. Ms. Sandberg, would you read by its title, please, as well as an explanation?
Confirming resolution number 1289, a confirming resolution authorizing appropriation transfers by the clerk treasurer for the following funds during budget year 2021. As I noted prior to the start of the meeting, this is just a simple resolution. It's not a public hearing as it's written out on the agenda. This is a very simple confirming resolution. I just needed to transfer a total of $2,000 within the general fund, specifically within town council budget, $1,000 from line 341 property and casualty to 212 postage, and $1,000 from 314 property and casualty to line 241 miscellaneous supplies.
Real good. There a motion by the council to approve 1289 as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carnahan,
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. BZA and Plan Birchwood Phase 3 Performance Letter of Credit. Mr. Everly?
Mr. President, this was recommended unanimously by the Plan Commission for the council to accept this performance letter of credit for Birchwood Phase 3 in the amount of $288,556.68 with an expiration date of September 5th, 2024.
Thank you. Is there a motion by the council?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carnahan,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Item 2 is Rose Garden Estates Phase 1 Performance Letter of Credit.
Mr. President, same with this item. This is the Phase 1 Performance Letter of Credit as well, with an expiration date, the expiration date to October 14th of 2022, in the amount of $6,067,696.25. Comes to you with a favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission.
Is there a motion by the council on a favorable recommendation?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Miller. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Item 3 is Rose Garden Estates Phase 2 Performance Letter of Credit. Mr. Everly?
This is also an extension of a performance letter of credit, Mr. President, extending the expiration date to December 9th, 2022, in the amount of $1,685,193.13. Comes to you with a favorable recommendation from the Plan.
Motion by the council on a favorable recommendation.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carnahan.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Item 4, Centennial Phase 13 Maintenance Letter of Credit. Mr. Everly?
As you mentioned, Mr. President, this is a maintenance letter of credit as opposed to the 3 prior letters of credit, which were performance letters of credit. But it too comes to you with a favorable recommendation by the Plan Commission to accept this letter of credit with an expiration date of October 29th, 2024, in the amount of $121,699.59.
Thank you. Is there a motion by the council on a favorable recommendation?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Miller. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. New business, item 1, 129th Avenue roadway and drainage improvements, change order number 1. Mr. Everly?
Mr. President, this was as a result of doing a little extra grading on the 129th Avenue roadway project. You might recall that this was a community crossing matching grant project. And you might recall that the original engineer's estimate was $785,000 for this project, and the bid came in almost $100,000 under that at $687,000 and change. So even with this change order of I believe it's
$16,925.
Yes, we come in well under the original budget. Now, this change order, of course, is 100% ours. It's not the 50-50, but it is, again, well under the original budget.
And this will bring the costs up to $704,852.75.
Yes, that's correct.
It's really nice to drive on that road,
Isn't it?
man.
I bet those folks are
We,
happy.
and,
They gotta be happy.
and I know he doesn't like to take credit for things like this, but I'm giving credit to Tim Kubiak because he saw an opportunity to repave our clubhouse parking lot that was in pretty desperate need of paving and striping. At the same time we did this project, naturally we did it outside of the project, but we were able to get very favorable costs for doing that. So that work has been done and completed, Tim. I'm not sure if the parking blocks had been put back yet. Last time I was out there, they weren't, but that was the only thing left to do, correct?
They are not.
And then we corrected a little bit of drainage issue coming off that parking lot as well, did we not?
Yep.
Yeah. So, overall, an outstanding project.
Is there a motion to approve change order number 1?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carnahan,
Second.
second by Mr. Miller. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Randy Neemeyer?
Yes. Motion carries 5-0. Item 2 is 129th Avenue roadway and drainage improvements request 3.
That comes to you, Mr. President, with a recommendation from Don Oliphant, our engineer with Christopher Burke, for pay application number 3 for that project we just discussed.
Thank you.
$153,468.
That brings the total to, the amount due this payment, yes, that's correct, $153,468.
I'll make a motion to approve the 129 roadway and drainage improvement request 3.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Foreman, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carnahan. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Randy Neemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Item 3, Morse Street Corridor HMA Surface Overlay. Mr. Everly.
Mr. President, you have in your packets, that is begins on page 59. Early this year, the street committee, the council street committee met and talked about some very localized road projects that we could work on doing some as this says, HMA surface overlay on. So these are the roads on the east side of the lake, essentially, and they came in well under the requirement to bid these out, so we only had to get quotes. Christopher Burke, Don Oliphant is recommending that we go with the quote from Milestone for $111,619 to complete that list of
And what streets will these be? Those little dead-end streets?
Yes, sir. Yes, 135th, 137th, 140th, but yes.
143rd. A couple places that we left off with the last time and finishing up like on there.
You know, I'm a little disappointed Nick's not here because this was a project that was very dear to his heart because he talks about walking down those streets and twisting an ankle in a pothole. And he's very upset.
I'm going to inform him of it, because I see him all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
He got a new sign at the end of his road too, so he's been pretty happy.
And we did a fire inspection of his room.
Really?
He requested a fire inspection.
But Nick came here, I think it was about a year ago or so, and really laid into us about those streets. He let us have it.
It's immaculate.
We are, Mr. President, putting out we have to go out for bid on some similar repair to streets on basically the west side of the lake, because the engineer's estimate, I think, Tim, was about $200,000 for that.
And are those the streets behind the liquor store back there?
Yep, that's included, yes.
Those, 3 of those,
Yeah.
yes. Mhm. Yes, so, but those will be coming, that's what we're opening those bids on October 5th, and hoping to award those on October 12th, Dave, when we get you
Yeah, I
the
was hoping
information.
Mr. Gould will see that subdivision redone, but couldn't make it.
That subdivision's been in desperate need for a
Challenging.
long time too, so it's great we're getting some of these
Oh,
smaller
yeah.
streets, low traffic areas checked off.
Yes.
That's good news.
Is that Robinson's street too, Nick?
I don't know what.
Doug Robinson, or?
Birch Street.
Yeah.
Birch, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember.
Birch Street is on this?
Birch is not one of the ones, because there was some stormwater work that we need to do on that before we...
Oh, yeah, we bumped that to next year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
It's a go path right now, it's pretty good.
Well, let the record show that John wanted it bumped to next year than anybody else.
No problem. No problem, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Those were the words I heard. Okay, Morse Street Corridor, HMA Surface Overlay proposal, is there a motion? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the surface overlay.
Motion by Ms. Rivera, is there a second?
Second.
Second by, Mr. Miller. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Randy Neemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Item 4 is request to purchase street signs using Fund 270 IIC Special Revenue Non-Reverting Fund. Who wants it?
Well, Tim knows more about this than I do. It's
Well, the
on
cops
page
came to get Tim, so we gotta leave him alone.
64, page 64 and 65 of your packet,
Where are we on?
Mr. President, page 64 and
The
65.
sign.
Oh, okay, yeah, I don't know if you guys noticed the signs there from Constitution south, we replaced all of the nice signs with the stop signs and the Cedar Lake signs. This dollar amount is what we need to purchase the rest of the signs for the top of the posts that we currently have. We bought those $14,000 worth of signs, which was 50 total units. We started buying the signs last year for the new town logo signs to put on top of them. And we need this $3,400 to basically fill the rest of the poles that we have. So we have the poles, the backers, we have everything other than the sign, so.
Okay.
And I would say we've seen about a 3,000% increase in material costs, so by him doing what he did last year, saved us a ton of money, because the steel prices are through the roof right now, so it's
And this is gonna get us all the way
Good
to
job.
the condos, and then we're gonna go to 41 and put some along 133rd, and I think we're gonna be able to get about to Meyer Manor before we run out of our 50, so that's gonna be our goal for the rest of this year, to get these done, and then, what's that? What'd you say? Meyer Manor?
Always leaving Meyer Manor off, Tim.
No, we're gonna get there.
She's gonna buy her own.
We're not gonna stop before Meyer Manor, we're gonna get
Okay.
to Meyer Manor.
I make a motion
It's a different-
to
Put in a basketball court.
purchase, signs needed in the amount of $3,416.25.
Motion by Mr. Carnahan, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes?
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Randy Neemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Item 5 is park projects. It was well vetted.
Well vetted.
We have that in front of us.
Just looking for your permission to place the order for the equipment, Mr. President.
$160,776, correct?
Yes, sir, that's with shipping.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the park projects as just discussed.
Motion by Mr. Foreman, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion?
Just want to thank everyone on the committee that chose these designs and took all their time and was very thoughtful in it.
Again, item of note for the record, make sure that we closely look at the placement of the Woods of Cedar Creek equipment that is currently allocated as part of the options there. But look at take into consideration what the citizens brought us for some ideas today. Thank you.
I'd also like to just mention Dale Gergel again. He's the one who kind of gave us a little nudge in the direction of this. He got this contact with this guy and set up a meeting with me and Rick and kind of pushed the ball rolling, so he needs to,
Good.
you know, I mean.
I love seeing Dale
he's doing a
around
great
town.
job. He's doing a really good job with the parks.
Very
He's just
conscientious.
awesome, so.
He was my 8th grade basketball coach.
Yeah, he's been around forever.
He was an excellent basketball coach. I've never had a coach that could yell at you 1 second and make you feel good about yourself the next second. Dale could tear you down and build you back up like that.
It seems like I can remember him
Yeah.
from being in 6th grade or
Yeah.
something.
Hey,
Like, I
he's
can
great.
remember him forever, you know,
Yeah.
it's crazy, but,
And man, he could run with us back then too,
yeah, funny.
up and down the
But he's doing
court.
an awesome job, and I just like to give him some, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, that was
I appreciate that
good
recognition.
moving forward, so.
We have a motion second. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Randy Neemeyer?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Yeah, I had Dave Uran as my 7th grade coach and Dale Gergel was my 8th grade coach, so
That's funny, I
Yeah.
remember that.
pretty good coaches. Uran was a little tougher than Gergel, though. Made us run more. Reports, item 1 is town council. Bob?
October 8th, the Chamber is having 50th year anniversary at the Lighthouse. It's $75 a person. John, I don't know if you got a hold of Diane yet?
No, I have to. Thank you.
And another thing, Dave sent us a memo on the 2020 census, wanting to know if he should look into trying to appeal. I tried today to get a hold of somebody that is asked for data, and I called that, and I got a recording that said, leave your name and phone number, and we'll get back to you, and I haven't heard a thing.
Sounds like a road trip to Washington for you, Bob.
And I've talked to Dave about this too, Bob, and without knowing exactly what our percentage was of the count, but knowing how many addresses we have in town and knowing general demographic of average people per household, we're way undercounted.
Well, at the NERC meeting last Thursday, they said Crown Point was the biggest population growth, St. John was second, Winfield was third, and Cedar Lake was fourth.
Well, and those numbers probably wouldn't change, but the fact that the census is still using 100-year-old, 200-year-old, 2,000-year-old technology to count, which is basically door-to-door, when the IRS can process 400 million tax returns, digitally and computerized, but yet we're still counting census this way and tying federal dollars to that census number. I think this begs for some research into appealing this, because it's important that this represents the growth that we've had, so we can be eligible when we apply for those federal grants, that we have a better chance at getting them when it comes to our infrastructure projects and other things that matter to the community.
I've never heard of an appeal before.
It would be worth looking into.
Yeah, but the only other thing would be to do a recount, but we would have to pay for that through the town.
But the fact that we're using this technology that was used in the days of Jesus Christ to run our census, to me, is just crazy.
Well, they did do it you could do it on computer.
I mean, honestly, John.
It's true.
You could do it with your computer, your phone, or a hard copy this time. But the last number I got was that we were 76.4%. And they said the state average was 73, which was better than most of the other states.
Well, I credit that extra 3% to your efforts, Bob.
Yeah, but I'm sad, I got 80% in 2010. Yeah.
Well, maybe that was the limitations of COVID to do all of your community work, but.
And our placemats we bought, they had to be thrown out because they locked down the restaurants.
Yeah, I mean, what was our population by census, Bob?
For this 2020? 14,106. We're 11,560 in 2010, 9,279 in 2000.
Yeah, I mean, so just by looking at that, we should be probably in the 18,000 range if it was 100%. And having that big of an undercount is a problem. So I think we need to look at those procedures of what we could do if there is an appeal available, or if we gotta do a full recount. And send out the census takers in their robes and sandals, just like they would have in the days of John the Baptist, and
Jesus
go,
slippers.
yeah,
Tablets.
go and count everybody. It's crazy that we're still doing it that way, but. So, could you get us some information on what we need to do, Bob?
I will continue to call these phone numbers that I get these reports sent to me, and I got this one today, so I tried 844-ASK-DATA. I called that today and got a voicemail.
Bob, did you check with the AIM offices in Indianapolis?
Well, maybe I could check with NERC and see if...
Yeah, see what's out there we need to learn about it because I'd sure like to see our people properly counted and see us eligible for every federal grant that we have opportunity to apply for. Any other reports, Bob?
No, that's it.
We have ordinance for collection of fire response fees and the ambulance fees.
Randy, we're working on those. I'll be meeting with Todd next week. I have your admonition in my head.
So, to kind of segue off of that and to give a little budget report update in our budget discussions, we are contemplating, spending in excess of our levy, monies that have been derived from building permit fees, so growth, miscellaneous revenues, to help fill the requests that were made by our department heads, namely in public safety, as well as public works to work on some of the equipment, allotting money for equipment every year. Part of that contemplation is also being able to invest more miscellaneous revenues that we currently don't collect. And we're putting together conservative numbers, but we could be looking at an increase in spending by the time we're done, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, of somewhere in the neighborhood of $700,000 over what we did last year. So it's a pretty significant change, but and how we're parceling this out, the cash balances that have been derived from the building permit fees, even if we stopped growing completely, we would be able to sustain that until the property tax collections and the levy increases from the property taxes and the growth of the town catches up. So that's the plan that we're putting in place, is to always be in that lane where even the worst case scenario, by the time we get to the point where the levy has grown enough, we're covered. We're not going past, we're not writing GO debt at that point to pay bills. We have a sustainable business model then. So, but part of that sustainability is that those revenue sources to help buoy up that spending on the public safety and public works. So that's kind of the highlights too, Bob, of some of our budget discussions has been that, beefing those departments up as requested by our chiefs and what is needed for our community, as well as a good equipment turnover program for Public Works Department, addressing some of the organizational things there as well. Also, Jen in the Clerk's Department for Utilities has requested some consideration on some pay increases for her people that work there, and those are things that have been favorably looked at by our committee. So we're addressing some of those things that have been gaps for quite a while finally, and I'm pretty optimistic that when we get this budget in front of everybody, I think people are going to be pretty pleased with it.
Isn't there a budget meeting next week, or trying to be?
Well, the public hearing on the budget is a week from tonight.
Right.
Yes.
Next Tuesday at 7 p.m. will be your public hearing. Corby will be joining us, and he will have much more to present to you, to have in hand so you can see what we came up with.
But it's, the highlights of it are...
What you just said?
Yeah, we're getting a little more aggressive, but within the lanes of our sustainability plan.
Yep.
We're kind of readjusting that sustainability plan to represent actual numbers rather than our projected numbers. We're going to try and kind of redo a 50 year of that plan every year, so it's a live document. We're always updating things. It's pretty exciting. The process has been very educational. Corby is also going to be working on some things for the RDC for us, which we have a general plan every year for the RDC, but never really a comprehensive budget. We're looking to put some of those strategies in place, sustainability budgets. And also I've asked Sue Hayes to really drill down on some utility budgets, so we have more of a comprehensive look at everything that we do from a business standpoint. And utility and RDC stuff isn't regulated by the State Board of Accounts, IDLGF. So those don't have to be adopted by the end of October. Just by the end of the year, we want to have something there to work as
Right.
guideposts for our spending plans and our investment in the community.
Jen, did you put these in our box?
That's a public hearing notice.
Yeah, that's the public hearing notice.
We've got a total of $9,523,936.
As
That's what,
proposed.
My first years on the council, we were borrowing upwards of $700,000 a year to pay bills from our sewer fund, so.
But we were also locked down early on, I think, from '07, weren't we?
We were in the midst of, a levy freeze, we were in the midst of an economic
Circuit breaker.
downturn. But, a lot of tight belts and due diligence around here is, afforded us the opportunity.
They were.
And now, even during this time where we're ahead of the game, we still need to keep that mindset of, let's not outgrow our spending
Right.
to the point where we're having to borrow from ourselves again. Let's
Bad
make
way
it
to run.
sustainable. Yeah.
and that was an optional income tax, optional, but they, blamed us for not passing something up here.
Yeah, we got punished for not taxing our people.
Right, and that was optional, but they wanted it to be mandatory.
There was a time when the business model here included tax anticipation warrants every year.
Yeah.
And twice a year.
Yeah.
You paid the first half, and then you roll it over to the second half and add to it, and it'd be paid at year end. But it was constant on an annual basis.
Yep, so, good reports. Any other council reports?
No, sir.
Dave, you covered, the ordinance for collection fees. Town attorney, we have ordinance 1394 and 1395 as
These are
discussion
your,
items.
yeah, these are your annexation, items. You have the Ravens parcel up on North 41, and, the Newbauer parcel at 141st at the middle school, the proposed new lock storage facility. That's what those are. You'll have a public hearing October 19th on this one.
Okay.
Okay.
Clerk treasurer?
Working on budget and the State Board of Accounts examination still.
It's a great day to see their taillights going south, isn't it?
I can't wait for next Thursday.
Great day.
They were in her office today.
You've been in my office for the last few weeks. Always a good time every 2 years.
And they charge us for that fine.
Yep.
I love bureaucracies. They add so much efficiency. Town manager,
Nothing to add, Mr. President, at this time.
director of operations,
I have nothing either, thank you.
police department,
No, sir.
fire department.
Of course, I have a few things. First thing, Dale Gergel, you guys mentioned Dale Gergel. He was a lot better referee than Dave was. He didn't call as many fouls on me. Dave was whistle happy, Dale wasn't, he used to let us play, so.
Todd's idea of basketball is clearing the lane, period.
Just get out of the way. So.
Usually locked in by the end of the first quarter.
Hey, we needed points, and that's what we did.
And then would Denny be yelling at you from the stands?
Denny never stopped yelling at
Oh.
me for 40 years.
He had the opportunity to
That was
take care
back
of the
when
team.
Russ was taking.
That's right.
That was back when Russ.
How about holding name on Saturday night?
Okay, so, on a serious note, the 9/11 ceremony that we did, the rising of the flag at dawn at the fire station, we had a nice turnout from people in the community. We went Facebook Live with it. And then the ceremony at Father John's Church was really nice. We had a really nice turnout, a lot of police officers and firefighters. That was very much appreciated, and I want to thank him for hosting it.
And Amy did an excellent job.
And I was going to her next. Our master of ceremony was Amy, our paramedic Amy, and she set the whole thing up. Because Chief Monger had to go to a wedding in Florida, Colorado, and I was supposed to go to a wedding in Indianapolis. So neither one of us were gonna actually be there, but the wedding I was supposed to go to got canceled because of COVID. So I was able to make it, and she organized the whole thing, and it was really fantastic. We are gonna do a 25-year celebration, but we're gonna really make it a big celebration. We want the town council and everybody to be involved. And hopefully by that 25th year, we'll have a place to gather with some sort of monument. We do have a piece of steel that we can get from the Fire Chiefs Association, and we displayed there. But we could request a piece of steel from the World Trade Center. I think that our community needs to get one of those and do our own police and fire, our public safety little area to where we can, hold our ceremonies. So by 2025, we want to have, like I said, a big blowout. Next year, the Eagles have offered to do a brunch for us after the dawn ceremony, so, and offered it to whoever was at the actual ceremony, so we're going to do that. We are not going to have an open house, unfortunately, this year because of the construction of the fire station. It's not going to be ready. We won't have a kitchen, so we won't be able to do a pancake breakfast. So this year, we're going to go kind of silent on the open house and until the project's done, and then we would like to have an open house. Just an open house to show the improvements to the fire station for the public to come in. So we're estimating right after Halloween, the whole project being done. We should be moving into the dorms upstairs by the end of this week. So, yeah, at least we're gonna be able to, people are gonna have to stop sleeping in the kitchen and out in the truck bays and in the offices. They're all over the place. We had one person sleep in a recliner with the back bay door open the other day. So, good thing they're busy enough throughout the night that he didn't end up staying out there all night. But, so we'll have an open house to let everybody know or let everybody see what we did with the money that we were allotted for this year's budget. We obviously have more work that has to be done to the fire station, but we're gonna focus on, some outside work next year, to get us by until hopefully the future brings a new station. So with that.
Future will bring a new station, chief, not yet.
Okay, when the future brings a new station. And, we've been working on that as well, with, Rick. He spearheaded it, and we've had some meetings and discussed it. So, once we figure out exactly how much money can be spent, then we can figure out what we can build when it comes just to the fire side. But we're all working collaboratively together, police, fire, public work, or, the town hall, to try to do something together in a location so that we save money by doing that. But yeah, so as soon as it's done, we'll invite everybody up to the station and do a little open house on either an evening or a Saturday or something.
I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, the upstairs turned out just beautiful. Hen and Sons did a great. It's really nice. It really is. It's something that everybody deserves, and they did a good job. They really did. So.
You got a couple fridges up there, do you?
There's no fridges upstairs, no.
Oh, okay.
There's 3 of them, 5 of them downstairs, yeah.
So those living quarters were horrible.
Oh, yeah, well,
Yeah, they were
it was
bad.
never
There's no beer in them,
intended to be-
Johnny, so there's no reason. We don't stock the refrigerator, just water.
And I'd just add to the 911, I was a nervous wreck on that day because my son Scott worked for a Chicago law firm and he got out of the Twin Towers 30 minutes before the first plane crashed into the Twin Towers. They met with their London and their New Jersey, so they had to go to New Jersey. Had they had the meeting there in the Twin Towers, he probably wouldn't be here today.
It's horrible.
The actual dynamics of that is frightening to even think about what Bob just said. What he had to do just to get out of that area, I was able to go to, Ground Zero after 9/11. I brought a $85,000 check from the Fire Chiefs Association to the Uniformed Firefighters Fund for the New York City Fire Department. They picked me up actually at the airport and took me to, and then we took another $60,000 check later. And I don't know, 30 minutes, he had to be running like everybody else was just to make it. So man, I can only imagine how much you had to be in some pain, just to see what the destruction and,
They had to stay in a hotel that had bulletproof glass in it, in New Jersey, because they couldn't go back, to New York. And then my daughter and his, wife drove to New York and picked him up, brought him back in, because there wasn't any planes.
Mr. President.
Mr. Austin?
You know, Todd, your colleague, Fire Chief in Sherrville, Bob Patterson, oversees the 9/11 ceremony and with a committee, with a hell of a committee.
right, I've been to,
He may be able, it sounds like you've got it dialed in,
yeah.
but the little things are the big things.
They have a fantastic, program there. They have a, well, we had a bagpiper, it was kinda nice, you know, play taps and everything, but, or Amazing Grace. But Sherrville does it right, 'cause they actually have an area, and they've been doing it for years. And they invite all the fire departments, I've been to it a few times, they have a piece of steel, from the 9/11, but, yeah, you're right, Bob does a really good job.
And I've been to every one, including this year, and Tom Baxel is invited when he's in town, he's always invited everywhere. And every time I hear his story, he's got more nuance to it, you hear
Yeah.
more and different, and he was on 55th when it hit 57.
Every year I try to consume as much information as I can, like documentaries and little interviews with people, because it's like you hear a little nugget that you didn't hear before, and man, I just will never forget that.
Well, they took me to the pile, and getting to the pile, we were walking on railroad ties because there was no street. And you look down between the ties and you could see tractors under the city working, because the roads were gone, destroyed, caved in, collapsed.
Imagine that weight, that heat.
Yeah, and it was amazing. You're looking down there and you see tractors, they look like they're this big, but there's a whole city under that city. And it was definitely something I'll never forget. And then the station in Manhattan that we went to, every single one of them guys died. And there was a whole new crew and all these young guys with their clean gear, they were all like, people were worshiping them, and they kept telling people, we didn't do anything, we were in the academy. And they felt terrible for just being idolized, but they did everything they could to, you know, keep the memory of those guys alive, so.
Thanks for the report, Chief.
All right.
Written communication, we have building department report. So far this year, we're at 272 new homes.
Plus two businesses.
Yeah, 2 commercial, the bank and, school. The total is 61,260,322 in residential, 21,235,510 in commercial, alterations of 400, for a total of $27,813,581. That's over $100 million in increased valuation to the community, so very good year. Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yep, amazing. Christopher Burke, engineering report. That's just your general rundown of what they do, so.
John, do you have anything on eco restoration?
No, Rick and myself, and a few weeks back, we had some discussions, and there's gonna be some updates soon, so. What was it, about 6 weeks ago, last call with the team?
Yeah.
We're moving forward, Bob.
Oh, yeah, it's
They're
still.
rocking and rolling, and
Everything's on pace to
chomping
happen.
at the bit to break ground and make it happen.
Yeah, everything's on pace.
I went to the Lake County Advancement, Committee luncheon,
Okay?
and Kay Whitlock walked in. I didn't even recognize her. She's lost 50 pounds
Oh, wow. Good for her.
from Christopher Burke.
Nice lady.
Yep, smart lady.
Okay, we have public comment. Mary Jones,
Want my address again?
you're good.
Okay,
You're on the record.
I'm on record. I'm on record about this project. I don't know where to go. This drainage project you paid for in Meyer Manor for 132nd and Marquette over 4 years ago, $30-some thousand, and the last time I was up here, you asked me to go to the drainage meeting. I went to the drainage meeting, and they went, you already talked to us. I just don't know, should I go to the meeting before this meeting? I mean, we spent all this money on a study, and I'm gonna quote Tim, he says, we start all this stuff, we don't finish anything. So I just don't even know where this is, because all that water is going on my property. And it just washes into my house. Like, and it's not just my house, it's also the house, I will say, formerly owned by the Rebenecks, and then formerly owned by Wards, because I don't know some of people's names. But it's, that water just comes down and
Can
branches
you
out.
refresh me what we've done on, or what,
Nothing.
Well, we did Meyer Manor redevelopment, how many years ago?
Yeah,
12.
not my street.
One.
Yeah, not my street, and not Marquette.
Her road
Yeah.
did not get curbs.
Kind of like the high
Thus,
road.
it's the same as it was in 1950.
And but the water's worse now because you blacktopped it, which was great. And it was supposed to go to the north, so it would go to that open space, but it went to the south, which goes onto my property.
The whole subdivision's hills, we need to address it, finishing the storm drain to direct all water. I mean, to live on a hillside subdivision and have that water not all go into the lake makes no sense.
so something that gives me heartburn here, and I'm gonna say it here in a public meeting, is I get calls from residents and I see people like Mary Joan come to public comment. And they're here because if there's something that they reported to the police department, they'll get told, that's not our responsibility. If they call Public Works and said, that's not our responsibility. Mary Joan comes here and has been to every meeting, that's not our responsibility. Everybody washes their hands of it.
5 years. 5 years
So,
ago is when I've been coming here.
whose responsibility is it then? If everybody washes their hands of some of these things, and a lot of these public comments we have in these meetings is because somebody said, oh, it's not my problem. That's most of them that come up with complaints like Mary Jones is, it's not our problem.
It's sort of like
Who the hell's
last
problem
month's
is it
meeting with the guy parking his trailer. Same thing.
Right, but
How
that's,
does resolution happen, is the question. If the storm board calls an issue a storm issue, then it's up to us as a
at the end of the
group to
day,
take action.
at the end of the day, the reason people come to our meetings is because the buck does stop here.
Right.
But these people shouldn't even have to come to our meetings because there are departments, there are governmental boards, there are utilities that, and responders that are supposed to respond to this, but yet people call me all the time. Well, I called the police and they said this isn't their responsibility, or I called Public Works and the secretary told me it's not their responsibility.
I always direct people
Whose
to our
responsibility is it?
town manager. He
Right,
runs
but-
the town.
But how much goes to him,
Right.
it still needs to be parceled out to people to actually do the work. I mean, it's so frustrating sometimes when I get these calls and I'm going back and forth with citizens and to see you up here talking about something.
I know you want me up here, but
Mary Joan, you're welcome here. These
I know,
are your
but
meetings.
it's not just even these two streets, it's also Green Street.
It's,
It's
but
the whole,
It's
the
the
whole
street
south
that we
end of the
didn't
neighborhood.
finish.
this is a problem though
That still need to be
systemically, that we have this pass the buck crap going on here. So if it's a drainage
We've made
issue,
some leaps and bounds, Randy.
huh?
Last 14 years, 16 years, 20 years.
I don't know if we've made that much I don't know if we've made that much progress though. in-
Surprise Park, Cedar Point Park.
But I don't know if we've
most
made
of
that
Meyer
much
Manor.
progress in
I
how
don't
we
know.
respond to our citizens.
Why
Perhaps
spend, why
How about
spend
that?
that kind of money on a study and then just, it disappears, it's
Right.
lost? I mean, I have a copy of it, but it.
That's
how does
frustrating
it-
to me
How does
too.
it follow this, I don't understand that.
And again, we've been out to look at her project, and it's on the list of things to tackle, but the amount of water that goes down her hill is water that's going down the hill. I mean, we have all these things that we're currently working on, we're working on other people's problems, and there's only so many you can address at a time. It's
Yeah.
not- nobody's ignoring it. We went out there after you were here again, and looked at it again, and tried coming up with something to alleviate a short-term factor, but basically it's curbs and drainage and gutters that's on our, if you look at
It's on
the
the
list,
list.
it's on the list to get
It's on the
done,
list.
but
It's just,
how do we prioritize whose
first.
list gets
I get it,
trouble?
I get it, but
not that
And
we're
I'm not
ignoring them.
trying to attack you personally.
No, and I'm just saying, we're not ignoring anybody's issues, but we looked at it, we got a game plan, but.
I
So,
hear
like,
from
where is it on the
citizens,
list?
I hear from citizens all the time,
It's not
a
right.
lot,
Am I gonna be alive?
about, well, it's not our responsibility, not our responsibility, not our responsibility. I'm saying, wait a second.
No, it's our responsibility.
Absolutely.
We represent the community.
Absolutely.
It's our responsibility.
That's the responsibility that comes inherently with self-government, is somebody has to answer the damn question,
The beautiful thing is,
once in a while.
I'm a person that believes in lists. And yes, while we can't do everything all at once, documenting and not dropping the ball on getting things onto a list,
Being able to
and
answer
reviewing the list.
Mary Jo with,
Yeah, and
with
Where do you
with
have
any
the list?
advising
Do
on
I
where
have to
we're
live
at.
long enough to see this?
Yeah, so here's
I'm
what I
just kidding.
suspect.
You're right.
I've been coming here 5
Sit
years,
there, Mary Jo.
I'm just curious.
I suspect that we've made a heck of a dent on our road list over the last
But
5
doesn't it
years.
come out of the drainage budget, I would think, no?
It
Yes.
just depends.
It comes out of the stormwater fee money, yeah.
Sometimes we don't use that, then we'll do a complete reconstruct.
I can tell you that Sue Hayes and I have had several conversations in the last couple of months trying to figure out how to fund some of these projects we're talking about. Tim is trying to get the Lindsway project, for example, done. That's a collapsing 36-inch storm sewer in the rear yard of a whole line of...
Our stormwater funds aren't as robust as we would like them to be.
Right.
Especially
You know,
with
I
some
think
of these
there's
bigger
a
projects.
perception that there's more money in the stormwater board's coffers than there is. We're
But not
scrambling
everything
to try to get
has
some
a
of the
solution that's $1 million, right? Sometimes solutions are fairly common sense, but it takes somebody, and I think to go to Mary Jo's point is, if we have this list, do we ever provide this list for this group up here, or for the stormwater board or anybody else involved, as, okay, we've checked this off the list, here's where this project is on the list, right? It would be helpful to somebody like Mary Jo to say, oh, okay, here's where it's at on the list, this is the potential time frame for addressing it, it hasn't been dropped, right? We didn't spend $30-some odd thousand of precious stormwater funds on a study that is just sitting
Let
there,
them go somewhere.
right?
Well,
So-
take the subdivision that we just resurfaced over there off of Lowerman. What is
Right.
it,
Noble Oaks.
Noble Oaks. So all those folks, I mean, that needed to be a reconstructed. We didn't have the money, we didn't have the financial ability, so we did a Band-Aid one more time. But the truth of the matter is, it's still on the list. So yeah, we should all review the list.
Well,
You're right.
I think there needs to be something that's transparent for the citizens to see, to answer these questions.
Yeah.
Also, to track the money that we're spending of these utility collections, to say, all right, we spent 30 grand plus on a study, that study hasn't been wasted, it's moving in this direction.
Well, and are we gonna do another study? You know, like,
We don't
the
need another
interceptor,
Oh,
how many
hey.
studies have we done on an interceptor in my lifetime? I mean, I just...
Mary Jones and engineers love to do studies.
Well, I understand that.
That's one of
I've
the
been on
favorite
Mary
things.
Jones' list for a long time, so.
Thank you.
But I think we need to make this a point, that at the end of this year, we need to kind of do a review
Put the list,
of all of this.
can you put the list?
Have something for the citizens to look at. Okay, where is my street? Where is this project that we talked about?
That's all we have to do is look at our checkbook and see who we wrote checks to
Right, but
Really not that hard.
But to have it updated
on a
so
spreadsheet.
people can understand it and show the progress, right? Everybody understands that not all of it can be done
Right.
in 1 year, but we gotta stop this, it's not my responsibility thing. Go talk to somebody else. Holy cow. The amount of calls I get from citizens that are in that nature, it's frustrating.
Well, you and me both.
And that's a new one that came up with the responsibility is the trees in the parkway. That was a new one that I truly didn't feel was our responsibility, trees in the parkway. And we need to really work on not allowing trees to be planted in the parkway if they're gonna be our responsibility to maintain a park. That came up in Utopia, but, we're still having brand new construction houses, planting 2 trees in parkways that are going to be detrimental to streets, curbs, sidewalks,
Well, I think that situation you're talking about in Utopia is unique because you had roots actually going to a sewer line.
Right, into a sewer too.
So
Right.
that was something that wasn't just a tree in the parkway. That was a tree in the parkway that breached
But, like, if,
sanitary
I mean,
infrastructure.
if, for instance, that tree was into the sewer main and we were there to cut it down and keep from going into the sewer main, those people would be out there with pitchforks and knives saying, don't touch my tree.
But it's no
They
different,
planted it.
it's no different
It's
than
hard.
NIPSCO maintaining their utility.
Correct,
right?
I mean, I get both sides.
Yeah, they came on my yard several years ago, they showed up with
trees.
right, and there's power lines that run along my fence line, and I had 6 trees along that fence line. And most of them were healthy. They knocked on my door and said, hey, the such contractor from NIPSCO showed me all the paperwork. They marked all the trees, these trees are coming down. And I said, okay, well, what the hell are you gonna say? They're coming down, they're in the way of the infrastructure.
They're in the easement.
Yeah, they're in the easement, so down they came. And I hired a stump grinder to grind the stumps and they're gone.
Right.
It is what it is. That's part of the game of utilities.
Right.
But Tim's right, we should not, I love a tree-lined street. There's
Right.
nothing prettier than a tree-lined street, but they wreak havoc with the utilities, sidewalks, curbs,
Especially
roads.
if the utilities are in the parkway.
Well, now's the time to
Where they
change
are.
our ordinance.
Right.
Subdivision control ordinance could be modified, we're on it.
We
I
need
think
to
we
do
whacked it,
that.
didn't we?
If we wanna require trees, they should be on the private property, not in the public rights of way where the utilities generally are, because it just,
More and more utilities are now in the front yards, because NIPSCO don't put them in the back.
that's right.
Yep.
And I drove through Lynn's Way, and I told Tim about it, I don't know if it's been changed, but all those trees, you can't even see the stop signs in Lynn's Way.
We can trim those. We ought to.
There's public safety issues there.
Well, and again, that's part of the issue. We require the trees to be there, and now they can be a nuisance.
Sins of the past don't need to be repeated.
Right.
And
These
we
trees
have to
need to
deal
be
with sins.
away
They actually weren't sins.
Do it.
Projects were
Bring a whole trailer.
I'm sorry, they weren't sins when projects were on paper.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
you go into Crown Point, you go into any of the old subdivisions in Crown Point, they all have trees on the street,
Right.
sidewalks on the other side.
But for God's sake, we can still keep a stop sign visible.
Clear.
Right.
Right?
And most of those people that have those trees there, we go to trim them for the stop sign, and they're out there with their brooms and stuff and complaining and yelling.
Then we can just take the tree down,
So be
if
it,
it's in the parkway.
so be it. Okay, any other public comment?
It's a rough customer.
Third call for public comment? Okay, our next town council meeting will be regular meeting will be on Tuesday, October 19th at 7 PM, preceded by a utility board meeting, but we have a special public hearing
On Tuesday,
on Tuesday, September 28th,
7 PM.
at 7 PM for budget.
And a special meeting on October 12th to award street projects.
And what Rick said, right on. Thank you, this meeting is adjourned.